All right, everyone. This is Marie Sullivan, President of the Governing Board, and I want to remind everyone we are live captioning our meetings. So if you want to go through that model, please look in the chat window of our WebEx meeting where you'll find a link. Please click on that link to open a web page with the live captioning. So at this time, I'm going to call to order the work session of the Maricopa County Community College District Governing Board of October 17, 2023. For the record, I need to call roll, and I will start with Mr. Burnett, our student trustee. Mr. Burnett, are you present? I know we're having some technical challenges, so I'll come back to him. Ms. Bittersmith? Ms. Bittersmith? Okay, getting feedback. I don't believe it's my. That must be Mr. Burnett. Mr. Burnett, I can't understand you. Okay, we're gonna have to come up with a different plan. Yeah, I can tell that you're there somewhere, but it's not coming through. Am I the only one who's having trouble with that?
No.
Okay. All right, so Mr. Burnett will need to come up with a different, I see your hand icon, but so I'm calling you present. If you choose to speak, we may have to come up with a different idea of how you do that. So I'm going to go back. Ms. Bittersmith, are you present?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I could. Thank you. I can.
Thank you.
Ms. Butler?
I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Davis?
I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Narini?
Present.
Thank you. Ms. Smith?
Present.
Thank you. Dr. Thor?
Present.
Our student trustee by a raise of hand on
I apologize, President Sullivan. I am here. This is Lynn.
Okay. No, you're there. It's difficult to understand you a little bit. So thank you very much. Anyway, all board members are present. Our student advisor, student trustee is present, excuse me. And today we're going to have a course fee task force update and look forward to hearing today's report and knowing there's always more to come. And so Dr. Gonzalez, you're present. So would you introduce the team presenting this evening, please?
Yes, President Sullivan, members of the board, and members of CEC and guests that are with us this late afternoon. Normally, Bettina would be here to present, but she is taking care of an urgent matter. And I believe that we have asked Dr. Patty Finkelstadt and Ms. Elisa Gria to jump in. I believe that they were going to be part of the presentation anyways, and so we're going to ask them to lead us through this presentation.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Dr. Finkelstadt and Dr. Gria, thank you very much for being present this evening for this, and we look forward to that. But as I always start off a work session, I'm going to put you on the spot. We need a song to run through our heads, and wondering before you really get into your presentation here, do you have a suggestion or one?
Mrs. Sullivan, thank you for the opportunity to present to you. Given the urgent matter that Ms. Sellis is dealing with, Elise and I have chosen We Will Survive This. So by Gloria Gaynor, which I know is a artistic liberty on that.
Hey, it's okay. I sing that song most days. So anyway, good for you. Thank you very much. And thank you for being with us this evening. And please go ahead.
Thank you. If we could go to the next slide, please. So the course fee task force has been meeting from May through September, and we reviewed artifacts and identified opportunities for improvement and to make recommendations. So you can see that it was established to bring together stakeholders. I won't go through the list of the cross-college, cross-functional representatives that you can see on the slide, but from all levels of the system, from the college, from the district, from academic affairs, student affairs, faculty, staff, administrative services. And the work of the team was focused on examining our current policies and practices related to course fees and refunds for students when they withdraw from a class during the refund period. And to make recommendations for changes to increase transparency for students related to those course fees, to improve consistency across the colleges with regard to those fees, and to highlight areas where trainings would be beneficial for the curriculum offices and for those who submit course fees. And I promise I won't be reading every slide to you.
Okay, you're doing fine.
Great. So if we can go to the next slide, Halise will go ahead and explain some of our guiding principles and our shared design principles of the work.
Course Fees Task Force shared design principles were very robust and really served to guide all the work that we did throughout the process. And as we kind of talk through the different teams and what they did, I think you will see in their recommendations, these shared design principles reflected in the recommendations that the group has come up with. Again, I'm not going to read them to you, but just pull out some of the big things here. One of the key areas was responsibility. So we know the course fees in part are there to help us with our ability to meet course specific financial obligations. At the same time, we want to make sure that we are regularly assessing and evaluating those to ensure that they meet but do not exceed those obligations. So that is our responsibility component. With responsiveness, we want to make sure that our processes maximize our program's ability to be efficient and are not a hindrance to ensuring that they are able to meet those financial specific obligations. And again, if those obligations are not needed, that we're able to remove those fees in a way that will be helpful and beneficial for our students. Everything in Maricopa is highly interdependent, really, but fees very much so. They operate in a complex set of systematic relationships between budgeting and curriculum, and we need to make sure that as we went through this, that we were considering all the potential impacts if we make a change to how we design, implement, and assess fees. The process itself, as Patty indicated on the previous slide, was collaborative, and we want to maintain that collaboration through shared governance and make sure that the fees processes are designed, implemented, and continuously improved through that shared governance process. We want to maximize equity among our students by striking that balance between those costs and the individual benefits of pathways. And we want to make sure, and this was, very, very important to the work, is that it's clear and transparent as to why fees are set, what they are for, and under what circumstances they are refunded, et cetera. And then we want to be as consistent as possible across our institutions, taking into account we obviously have local reasons that justify variation. Next slide, please, Elsa. So there were the task force has made recommendations in 3 key improvement areas. And again, you can see how these touch upon those guiding principles: enhancing policies and practices related to course fee development, increasing course fee transparency for students, and continuous improvement of course fee processes, including standard guides, training, and end user resources. Next slide, please, Elsa.
So the first major recommendation that came out of the course fees task force was related to the course fee development process. So the proposal includes a change for the instructional councils to recommend a course fee maximum during either the initial design and development process of a new course or as part of the regular curriculum review cycle. And the idea here is that the instructional councils would determine what is an appropriate for the nature of the course, a maximum course fee, and then individual for, say, a given course. And then individual colleges could charge as they need up to that maximum. So it would provide a level of consistency so that the ICs are able to establish a maximum level. And there would be some consistencies for, okay, let me reframe this. So the change in the course fee maximum is set by the instructional council during the design and development part of the curriculum review process. The course fee maximum will be based on determination of need as part of that development process. And it provides a structure for the instructional councils to work together in a collaborative manner across the colleges to determine what is appropriate pedagogically for the nature of that course. It would mirror existing collaborative process used by instructional councils during the curriculum development process and decision-making. And that maximum would be based upon, at least initially, on looking at what the instructional councils are actually already doing and then determining whether or not that's appropriate. And the conversations would be happening at the instructional councils. I teach in biology. And so the idea here is for Bio 201, what would happen is we can look and say the maximum amount for Bio 201 at all 10 colleges is, say, $50. So no college can go over that, but all the colleges can go under that. And any additional increase to that maximum would have to be determined by the ICs, but not by individual colleges. And the thought to that is that as the ICs determine what the maximum course fees would be, is they could talk about the different types of instruction that's occurring at the different colleges. Well, how do you teach Bio 201? How do you teach Bio 201? It would create cross-pollination for best practices, right? It would also help with determining maybe there's some shared resources. So particularly for really high ticket items that might be able to be funded through course fees, through the course fee balance, or even by the, by the college budget. And we would have to establish some method at the colleges, some local method to determine what the colleges individually might charge for a particular course. So I know that there had been a concern in many of the meetings of the course fee task force about, well, what would keep all the colleges from just going straight up to the maximum if that's what they're allowed? And the idea to that is first of all, no one is interested in charging students for things that they don't need or that aren't needed by the college for the course, but also that the colleges would develop their processes for determining within that course fee maximum what is appropriate for the nature of the instruction that's happening in the course. Another thing that was recommended out of this was the ability to allow for balances to accumulate for both immediate expenses, but also reasonable reserves for short and medium term expenses. And the idea behind that, again, I'm using biology as my subject matter expertise, is that, when we're planning, say, for a fall, for the fall courses, a lot of those materials have to be bought either at the end of the spring or in the summer so that we're ready to start teaching our students on day one. And if we have to wait until the course fees come in for fall, for the fall semester, there's no monies to buy all the materials that we need. And so there would be a 2-year, based upon the prefix revenues of course fees, a 2-year course fee balance that would enable for not only buying for the next semester in advance, leveraging economies of scale, but also that if you needed to exceed a 2-year course fee maximum, that you have to have a maintenance, like a reserve and maintenance, approved maintenance and replacement plan, but that would also provide for those unexpected, relatively high cost needs that still fit within the course fee guidelines. So we're not talking about getting rid of the current course fee guidelines by any stretch of the imagination. So we still have that $5,000 per item limit, but we wanted to be able to provide for the unexpected costs, or for that matter, we want to be able to provide for, some of the pilot stuff that we really want to try something. That 2-year course fee reserve limit might be able to provide for a pilot purchase of consumables that then could be used. And then if it shows benefit, if we see better student success or better teaching, then we could go ahead and go to the ICs and ask for an increase to the course fee maximum, right? So individual colleges wouldn't be the ones asking for course fee changes, the instructional councils would be. That would also hopefully decrease a lot of the bureaucracy where there's, dozens of course fees, well, hundreds of course fees that come to the board every time that they come. And they're all over the map in terms of Bio 201 at PC is asking for this, and Bio 201 at Chandler Gilbert is asking for that, and Bio 201 is asking for, for this. There would be one consistent Bio 201 for all 10 colleges. And then we're proposing also a new biannual review of all course fees by ICs to ensure that they remain in alignment with changes in market cost, changes in pedagogy, those sorts of things, instructional costs as the technology changes, particularly those disciplines that have have a lot of technology changes, like in our cyber, in a lot of our STEM fields, nursing, our allied health. So that's the first recommended change.
Thank you. I think what I'll do is, this is Marie, I'll wait until we're done and then I'll go through and ask folks for questions, unless there's something on someone's mind that's absolutely needs to be asked right now. Being none, thank you. Please go ahead.
Next slide, please, Elsa. So for increasing course fee transparency for students. So this group did a full inventory of the student life cycle to really look at when do students need to understand fees. And we wanted to really make fees more visible throughout the enrollment process, providing depth of information at the right time in the process. So what is needed to support them when selecting courses, starting courses, withdrawing from courses, and just general information that would be out there and available all the time. So we did that full inventory and found a variety of different places through the life cycle where we had lots of opportunity to increase that transparency. So some examples are a proposed change to Find a Class to create a standalone field that can always display a course fee to students. And that course, that I'm pleased to announce, is actually already up and live. So we are already well on our way to actually making some of these recommendations already benefit students. So that independent course fee area, when students go to find a class they may be interested in registering for and enroll for, there is now a spot specifically for course fees that is open and visible. They don't have to do additional clicks to find those. Also within SIS, the Student Information System, we're looking at a variety of different areas to display fee information in the final step prior to enrollment, which would include the actual category of the fee. So students can see at that point, okay, there is a fee and it is for software or lab materials. And that would be provided in the course note. Find a Class also has course notes where information could be clarified about what the fee is specifically for. We're also going to be updating our maricopa.edu and asking our web pages and asking our colleges to do the same, to include a course fee FAQ, which still needs to be developed. But this would be to have student-facing information regarding fees, including cost savings that they may be able to realize through open educational resources and inclusive access. We are going to, again, looking from STEM to STERN, where we can have an opportunity to help students understand why we have fees. We're going to be reviewing and revising our syllabus statement in Administrative Regulation 3.6 to include a statement about fees and we've already drafted a provided syllabus statement that faculty could include that outlines what students get for that course fee. So specifically what supplies, what things, so more of a detailed list of what they are getting within that course related to those fees. And then we're also going to be revising our refund policies and our refund policies and tuition policies to clarify when fees are non-refundable after the add drop period, where an appeal process can occur during that process, and provide a standardized appeal process for students for the return of course fees when it is appropriate. Because there are times where the thing has already been expended, right? So the student has already benefited from that particular item that the course fee paid for, even before the start of the class. So in some cases, it may not be appropriate to appeal, but we will, or to refund that automatically, but an appeal process will be put into place to help support students, not only in the cases where they might withdraw, but also if they're taking a class maybe for a second time, or they already own a kit, let's say a makeup kit, or a, they already have their culinary knives, right? So that they don't necessarily have to purchase those again. And so again, that appeal process would support that as well. So those are some of the different areas. We're also going to revise the student account and bill invoice for any changes in our refund policy based on those common pages changes. So again, some of these changes like find a class have already gone into place, and others are going to follow our standard process for change through common pages updates that are done annually. And next slide, please, Elsa.
Before you go on, this is Marie, and I'm going to interrupt my own rule. Going back to the words on, or my own guidance, increased course fee. Okay, so the second box says proposed policy change. Then we go to the paragraph. It says review and revise refund policy. My understanding, and maybe Linda, you can help me understand this, Dr. Thor, that AR stands for administrative regulations. Are we talking about a policy that needs to come to the governing board for approval? Or are you talking about more of an in-house admin reg? Or is there a combination in there somewhere?
Mrs.
Oh, go ahead.
Mrs. Sullivan, members of the board, I do believe that because these are administrative regulations, that they would go through their common pages processes and would either be go through that standard process which would come to the board, or I do believe that the chancellor has a method to change things in an expedited process. So I think it might depend. Elise, do you have a?
Yeah, that is correct. The student regulations follow the common pages process, which is a different process than other administrative regulations. So those go through the provost and then the chancellor for approval.
So in that case, is the word policy still appropriate? Anyone?
So Mrs. Sullivan, this is Janice Falkenberg.
Sure.
I think we tend to interchange that language quite frequently in calling our administrative regulations policy. So
Right.
In this case, these are admin regs and they would not come to the board. We have our board policies and then we have our administrative regulations, but we tend to use those words interchangeably, whether that's appropriate or not, but that's what I've seen to be the case.
So given that this is a new document, is it possible that we can fix language to be more specifically accurate? And again, that's not a criticism to the committee, so no one misunderstand that. I just think if we have different folks from different places reading this, we have new governing board members, et cetera, that interchangeability sometimes can get in the way. And it would be helpful to have the most appropriate language per the practice.
Absolutely, Ms. Sullivan and members of the board, we can get that correction in place because it is a confusing area how we use these interchangeably. So we'll make that change prior to the board meeting, so you'll have the accurate language on these slides.
Yeah, I think that just helps clarify for the board our understanding of our role in this regard, and removes any perhaps confusion, and maybe the confusion might only be on my part, but just going forward from there. So thank you for that accommodation. Okay, please go forward.
It is confusing on all of our parts, I think. So I've been here for 22 years, so it's still confusing. So no worries, we'll make that change so that we'll be as clear as possible. So the last area is continuous improvement of course fee processes. So again, from the guiding principles, it was really important not to just kind of let the ship go and not continuously check in to make sure it's still on course. So in these recommendations, what we're making sure is that we are really living up to that standard consistency in operating procedures. And Patty kind of alluded to how we're going to do that through instructional councils. So that's a starting point for making sure that we have these standard processes, and the colleges are going to have procedures to support them and making sure that they are following suit. So all of this will be culminated in a course fee process and guidelines handbook that's inclusive of those procedures, that maintains the course fee categories and usage guidelines that have already been set up, explains all these interconnections, the key dates for processing, with the objective to really make sure that we're being as consistent as possible. In addition, this is really going, we want to make sure that we are having consistency in terms of our quality assurance. So we want to make sure that we have reports available that are reports for the college teams, inclusive of our curriculum and scheduling and fiscal needs, so that they can monitor and do the checks and balances to ensure that we are living up to the responsibilities that we aspire to in our guiding principles. And this will take the shape of a refinement of the course fee submission module, which will really help us. And that course fee submission module, forgive me, is in our student information system. So refinements that are underway on that module will help us meet this quality assurance by providing us with that consistent way that things are entered, tracked, and then that will then allow us to have reports and a repository of fees so that we can see everything easily across all our institutions. To accompany all this and to make sure we're all on the same page and rowing those boats together, we're going to be doing some targeted training sessions for the instructional council, for the college and district teams responsible for course fee management and submission processes, recording those so those are available, for later viewing, because we know we onboard people quite often in Maricopa. We'll develop talking points for staff and faculty so that they can discuss fees with students, and then also do additional road shows and training as processes and our processes are revised as we learn from what it is that we're doing and we continuously improve. Next slide, please, Elsa.
So here's the proposed timeline for the recommendations, and Halise touched on many of these in her slides. So as I mentioned, that the task force was established in charge and has been working May through September. And then for the three proposed recommendations, you can see the different timelines. The first one about the policies and practices related to course fee development, that's about the instructional councils being the ones responsible for proposing new course fees to the board, the maximum course fees. So that would be through a lot of the legwork would be done, the background work, the framing would be happening in the spring of 2024, with fall 2024 being the instructional council. So spring and fall of 2024 for implementation in spring of 2025 would be the hope. That would include things like the process through which instructional councils would be reviewing their course fees and establishing what the maximum amount would be, supported by the data, by what is going on in the classroom and what those course fees are being used for. The guidelines and processes for those reserve balances, so that 2-year reserve balance and or the maintenance and replacement plan if it needs to exceed that 2-year plan. So what's the process and guidelines and reporting structure of those? And then the standardized review process for the regular review that we mentioned. The increased transparency for students, as Halise mentioned, some of these have already been implemented, like the Find a Class and the course filter. We're talking about and developing course fees FAQ and adding that to all of our web pages. The technology improvements, in spring of 2024. The not policy revisions, but the administrative regulation revisions. The Common Pages Committee is currently meeting, and so they would be reviewing any sorts of changes to those admin regs through their process for implementation in the catalog year of 2024-2025. And then again, those continuous improvement for those course fee processes starting in the fall, continuing through the spring, and then ongoing with the training and professional development as people cycle in and out of the instructional councils and the various positions within the district and the colleges. So therein is our presentation. And so the last slide, as you can see, is we will take any questions, attempt to field them, and we will capture any questions we might not be able to answer and then get you answers in a timely manner.
Thank you very much. And I'd say you lived up to Gloria Gaynor's "We Will Survive." So good job.
Thank you, Mrs. Sullivan.
Board members, I'm going to ask if you have any questions. I can go through roll, but let me just throw out and see if we have folks wanting to leap up and ask questions. And Dr. Narini, I know you served on this committee, so I'm going to save you for a little at the end.
This is
so
Ms.
board,
Smith. I'm happy to jump in.
thank you. Please do.
Thank you for the presentation. My apologies, there's a piece that I'm still not understanding, but I think it's my fault. If you wouldn't mind helping me understand how the reserves work currently and whether the processes that you've just described will change that. And I think really at the root of this is I'm not familiar with how course fees are currently accumulated and then dispersed. And so I think for the first step, if you could just share where do course fees go, how are they put into reserves, and what is changing with the reserves, if anything. That just didn't quite click for me.
I'm sorry, Ms. Smith, you cut out right at the end with your actual question. Could you please repeat it?
Yes. When the course fees are collected from the students, how are they accumulated and then dispersed to a department? And then what, if anything, will change with regard to how the reserves are used?
I might have to defer to those in the business offices. I think Kim Granillo is on the call, but from a department chair perspective, first of all, I think it might be a little bit variable by college for exactly how this is done. But as students pay their fees and the course fees are paid, it is put into a separate account for the department under the prefix. And then that the department chair and the faculty, and in concert with their VP and the dean and their VPAS and financial fiscal people, determine follow the procurement guidelines and the course fee guidelines for expending those monies and then tracking them and using the financial management system, FMS. In terms of the balances, right now, I think the balance is either one or, I'm not sure exactly if there is a course fee balance limit right now or how that is tracked and managed. But essentially what happens is course fees accrue and then they're spent. And again, like I mentioned earlier, they are, like when we purchase items for fall, we're spending monies that fundamentally were collected during the prior year. And so that's why the recommendation is a 2-year course balance, both be able to cover any sorts of increases because of, inflation or unexpected expenses because of, changes in pedagogy that aren't able to be put through the course fee process in time to fund that. There are quite a few guidelines in place for how course fees, whether or not they're collected during a semester or over, in the past, that how those can be spent. And I don't have those to hand right now, but we can certainly share those with the board if they're not part of the packet. So I don't know if that the changes is that there'll be particular guidelines for how you can that are standardized across the district, not just locally at the college, for how those guidelines or how those course fee maintenance, those maintenance replacement plan would be able to be tracked and then managed. So, but I don't know if Kim is on the call and she might be able to provide a little bit more specifics.
I am, Patty, and I'm happy to jump in if that's okay.
Yes, please.
President Sullivan, Ms. Smith. So as you would imagine, it is done. Patty's right. It's done multiple ways depending on the college. We have some colleges that hold course fee reserve balances to no more than a year. We have other areas that there aren't really any restrictions on what can be accumulated. So the purpose in this recommendation is to really get everybody to the same standard and to limit the amount that can be accumulated in reserve. And so if, for instance, a department finds that they are exceeding the 2-year balance, they absolutely need to go back and look at what the fee is set at and determine whether or not the fee needs to come down or what the situation is and why the reason really exists for the increase in reserve. But Patty's right. This is really about trying to get everybody on the same page and recognize that the dollars need to come in and go out and not just accumulate.
Yeah, that's so helpful. My other question is, how do you think this will change what we see in the board meetings about fee requests? Like, do you think that there will be like, it will be more cyclical, like based on when the committees are meeting? Or will it basically look the same, but now instead of the list having discrepancies college by college, we will see more consistency? But I'm wondering, from the board perspective, what, if anything, will change when course fees are discussed at meetings?
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say maybe Dr. Narini could address that since he served on the committee, or is that really not your role, Dr. Narini?
I could try. I think the way I perceive it is that we'll still get twice a year the fee requests, but they will be by department instead of by college. And I think one of the things that as we as a board need to discuss or to look at is the template that we're using. What information do we need as a board to make these decisions on the fees? So to kind of revise what the forms that we get now, so that we're more accurately getting what we need, what information we need.
Thank you. Team members, do you have any comments to that?
I can add to that I would imagine, so those 2 periods are still going to be there. So there's no suggested change to the cadence, but for the board. But on the back end, there would be, for the rest of the individuals in the process, I think there's going to be a much better cadence. And so sometimes I feel like there's a bit of a suddenly fees time is here and we're trying to get everything in and do fees. Because we're going to dovetail it with the design and development efforts and make sure that those conversations are happening up front, it's really going to improve the efficiencies and processes for the colleges, because they'll have that max fee recommendation to work from, and there won't be as much scrambling for to meet those 2 drop periods for the course fees to go to the board. So I feel like this is going to be a substantial improvement for the overall cycle, and to provide, as Dr. Narini said, a lot more clarity to the board as the information and consistency when the information is presented.
Those are my
Thank you, Ms.
questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Anyone else? Another question or two? Okay. Dr. Narini, do you have any thoughts? Again, you served on the committee, and are there next, and maybe my question is going to be, are there next steps besides what's outlined here? So as things move through that timeline you presented, I guess my expectation would be the task force would convene and address things and look over things so that it's not be all end all today. But going back to you, Dr. Narini, do you have any comments or questions from your service on this task force?
I do. And I mean, first of all, thanks for the presentation, but really thanks to the committee. This was, I mean, the committee did a heavy lift in a short amount of time to kind of get through a lot of the detailed stuff that goes on with fees. So what they dug through and what identifying some of the hiccups and the glitches along the way, I think they did a wonderful job in getting all that. And so I was really thrilled by the part about the periodic review. This will be a living process, because as we know, fees are changing. The purpose of the fees are changing now that we're going more to charging fees for books. We know that that's going to be changing. We know that with technology that's going to be changing. So to be able to review it on a regular basis and come back to us with some of the details once they get hammered out, because again, this is a great overview and a great first run at it, but there's going to be lots of details, lots of weeds that are going to have to be gone through, and lots of go backs and fixes and returns. But yeah, so it's a lot of good stuff. What I was wondering too is, as we were talking, as the ICs get together, and especially when we're talking about purchasing consumables, and if all 10 colleges are agreeing, are we going to, or will we be able to get even more economy of scale, more bulk pricing for some of the material? Because instead of each college ordering it, we can be ordering it for 10.
President Solon, Dr. Narini, members of the board, I don't know, but I think that the ICs being able to have a conversation about what the maximum course fee maximum should be for a particular course may result at least in some conversations about that. I mean, consumables are a little bit, they might be a little bit difficult. For instance, if you buy, a 5 kilogram thing of media for Bio 205, how am I going to, that needs to be refrigerated, how am I going to get that to Chandler Gilbert? So, but it's, I mean, just as one example, but it's possible that there might be the ability to identify those areas where that might make sense as the ICs and the members of the ICs discuss what those course fees are being used for at the individual colleges. It's possible that we might see some of that, but I certainly can't say that that's a 100% expected outcome. I think that the discussions that the ICs are going to be having about the course fee maximums and what's appropriate for their courses is going to be eye-opening to a lot of people about what's happening in the classrooms across the 10 colleges in all of these courses. And that's going to not only help with course fees and what's, how those course fees are being used, but also instructional best practices as people are talking about, oh, you do that in your course. Interesting. I think I would like to try that. And maybe there's an ability to share things temporarily so that people can pilot this, different types of work in their courses, different types of experiments or using different types of materials or equipment that could then show proof of concept before actually purchasing something that they use maybe for 2 semesters and then find out that it doesn't really work within the nature of the rest of the department or the rest of the course or the support of sustainability of support by the colleges. So I think there's some of that. So I think that could be, but I don't know for sure.
And the only other, thank you, that was good. The only other question I had, will the biannual reviews that are going to be done, will we have access? I mean, not that we're going to be asking for reports, but would we have, as a board, have access to those reviews and what the outcomes were?
I think those are public documents, so I would imagine so. Are you asking for them to be formally presented to the board or to have work sessions or just be know where to find them if you're interested?
I think just know where to find them, because I think that would be a long and tedious workshop. But no, just so that we can review those, and just so that, because we do have our fiduciary responsibility, so we just need to make sure that we have that available to see, so that we make sure that the fees are being used the way we approve them to be used.
I think one option that we could do to facilitate that is, I think earlier you mentioned, Dr. Narini, that when the fees actually go for approval, that there would be certain documentation that would be attached. So I think similarly during a review cycle, that maintenance of what is being reviewed in that process within those same categories of requirements could also be, again, available in their public folders for our instructional councils.
Good. Yeah, that's a good point. As new fees come in, that could be some of the information that we as a board might ask for in the template too. So thank you. That's a good idea.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Narini. Any other comment? Just want to.
No, just thank you. Thank everybody for all the work that they did to pull this together and get us going down this path or on this ship.
Hey, Thank you. Board members, one more last call if you have any comments or questions.
This is Donna. All I've got to say is great job, everybody, and thank you, Dr. Narini, for being a part of this important committee.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. I don't see any other board members releasing their microphone or by unmuting, so I'm going to believe that board members have no further comment. Dr. Gonzalez, do you have any other comment you'd like to make?
Yes, President Sullivan, let me please extend my appreciation to the team that worked on this in such short order. And I really want to thank Dr. Narini for his participation and his passion around this to ensuring that we're, number one, we're transparent. Number two, that, we're charging students what should be charged to take some of the courses that they take. And so we just appreciate that, his lens on this. As a matter of next steps, I think there were questions that were asked today. And I would need I think I'd like to consult with Bettina. I wish she could have been here this evening, but she's not. And I suspect that we could throw this back into the task force. In addition to these proposals, perhaps there's a proposal of what that next step is, given the questions that came out today. Maybe this just becomes, the regular monitoring and maintenance and work of the provost's office, and we see that office as being the area that continues to do this work and ensure that we're following these recommendations or any others that come forth. Or maybe it means the creation of a team that is meeting on a not as regular basis as this task force did, but one that is maybe meeting once or twice a semester for the purposes of, continued monitoring and continued assessment and review of current practices with continued recommendations for improvement. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that I don't see this as being entirely complete, although that's not to be anything disparaging to the task force work. It's just that it's a work in progress. It's a version 1.0 of where we're trying to go. And the question is, how do we get to version 2.0 and 3.0 and so forth? Sorry for the long-winded answer, but that's what's top of mind as we conclude this presentation.
Thank you. Dr. Gonzalez, I think that your two ideas for either assessment, evaluation, monitoring, ongoing review, whatever, can be really helpful to governing board policy development, or as we look at budgets, as we stay student-centric, look at our strategic priorities as an element. This is an element of that, putting students first. So however that is framed for the future, I think is worthy. And we'll look forward to hearing more in how you and the provost and others see this moving forward. Certainly, I would also like to thank everyone for their hard work. I appreciate this task force idea where we also can have board participation so that we are doing true shared governance and collaboration to get to the better end for our students. So thank you. And thank you, Ms. Agria, and thank you, Ms. Finkelstedt, for Dr. Finkelstedt, sorry, for your presentations this evening. And we really appreciate your stepping forward so we could go forward with this work session. So everyone, I'm going to put us on pause for maybe 4 minutes, while Elsa gets us reoriented to our board agenda, and I'll reconvene us. I'm going to adjourn the work session and I'll call us back to order, let's say 3 to 4 minutes. So thank you. Good evening. Elsa gave us the 3 minutes. Are we good to go?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Everyone, again, to be repetitive, I want to remind you that we're live captioning our meetings. So please look in the chat window of our WebEx meeting where you will find a link. Please click on that link to open a web page with the live captioning. So at this time, I'm going to call to order the agenda review meeting of the Maricopa County Community College District Governing Board of October 17, 2023. We're going to review the agenda for the upcoming October 24, 2023 board meeting, which is just next week. For the record, I will call a roll call vote of board members. I'm going to go backwards this time. Dr. Thor. Hello? Okay. Lost Dr. Thor. Ms. Smith.
Present.
Thank you. Dr. Narini.
Present.
Thank you. Ms. Davis.
Present.
Thank you. Ms. Butler.
Present.
Thank you. Ms. Bittersmith.
Here.
Thank you. Dr. Thor. I'm sure she'll be back with us in a moment.
Can you not hear me?
I can now. I didn't
Marie?
hear you. Yes, I can hear you now.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm marking you as present. Thank you. Mr. Burnett. I don't know if that is a technology moment or if he's, I see he's still present on the list. Okay, and now I hear sounds.
Couldn't get that button to work. Can you hear me?
I can hear you breaking up, but I can hear you. I'm marking you as present, Mr. Burnett.
I'm present. Present.
Thank you. So all governing board members are present, and Mr. Burnett, our student trustee, is also present. So board members, we're again looking through the agenda review. The normal order of business will take place. We're going to have a student life report from Glendale. And right as of now, we have all the councils and association representatives speaking. We have no emeritus awards this time. We do have several things noted under the chancellor report. We will be receiving the Community College Foundation semi-annual report, as well as have a strategic plan update on strategies 1 and 2. Chancellor will then continue his report for that evening. Going back to the strategic plan, and we'll talk more about this, or I'll probably make this announcement again at the regular board meeting, but Ms. Smith and I will be serving on the strategic planning committee task force as appropriate for the next while. So that's just an update there. Will be repeated for the governing board notes. Citizens interim will take place, and then we'll move on to the consent agenda. Last time we were together, I combined a lot of the elements of the consent agenda because I know that all of you have read through all documents and are well prepared. So I'm going to try that again this time. And as you see, we have approval of acceptance of a new grant award. We also have some purchase orders. And then there are a couple IGAs. Probably also significant is that we will approve the Phoenix College Prep Academy annual financial report that has gone to the Arizona Department of Ed, and we will do the same for the Gateway Early College High School report. So right now I'm going to look at items 1 through 9. Do board members have any questions or comments on any items numbered 2 through 9? Okay, so then I'm going to ask the question tied to the curriculum. That's item 10, where we have some course modifications and deletions, et cetera. Is there any comment on any approval of the curriculum items? There being none, that will take into account our consent agenda. And again, if between now and then you, upon further reading or discernment, you have any other questions, please direct them through Elsa to the chancellor, and Elsa will copy all of us on the question and subsequently any answer. But as of now, I'm understanding that these items will be sufficient to go forward in our consent agenda. Okay, then we will move to non-consent action items. And given that this is second read for board policies. I'm going to ask if you have any questions or comments on the second read and adoption of new board policy 4.1, shared governance principles. Are there any comments or questions on that item? Being none, then I hear the same issue with the second read and adoption of governing board policy changes to 4.11, which is awarding of emeritus status. Are there any comments or questions on that? Also under non-consent will be approval of the proposed 2024 legislative agenda. Last month, I believe there was, when I was not here, I know there was the presentation of and a work session for the legislative agenda for 2024. And what we will do then at our board meeting next week is to approve that agenda as you discussed and was presented, unless there are any suggestions or comments for modification. Okay, don't hear any of those. So then, as usual, there will be a first read and information for employment and separations for August 12, 23 through September 8, 2023. Any comments or questions on that for the public record? Being none, there would be monitoring reports on our General Fund 1 unrestricted fund for the 3 months ending September 30, 2023. Any comments or questions? Being none, then we would move to the community governing board reports. And there's been a lot of activity. I'm sure many folks will make comments on their recent activity and conference attendance, etc. So that will be next week. And then moving forward, we'll look ahead to the next meetings. I want to begin to give you a heads up, as we've talked about, the November 28th session, work session, may need to be reframed in terms of time. We also on the 14th, sorry, going backwards, we'll have an executive session. So keep that in mind, board members. The regular board meeting that is scheduled on November 28th through 6:30 will be instead changed to noon. We're in the process of working out the logistics to that. Reason being is we need to and want to celebrate the Valley Valley Leadership Man of the Year, who happens to be our CEO and president of the Maricopa Foundation, Brian Spicker. So that event is that evening. Ms. Falkenberg serves on their governing board. Didn't seem that we should ask for a shift for the board meeting, so we can instead, we want to be present to celebrate Mr. Spicker. So our governing board meeting, again, regular meeting for November 28th will take place at noon. We'll send you more information to that end. So with that, is there any comment or question, point of view from any governing board members on this agenda review? Being none, Dr. Gonzalez, do you have any comments or questions on this item, this agenda review?
President Sullivan, I don't have any questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you. So with that, governing board members, I'm going to conclude this evening's agenda review meeting and say that we're now adjourned. So everyone have a good meeting and thank you for your time. I think we had a good work session this afternoon. And we look forward to a good meeting next week. Thank you. Good night, everyone.